Hey, how's it going? First of all, don't laugh at my sign behind me. I got this great idea of putting a little neon light, and I put one up to check it out to see how it looks so I could get something to say what I wanted. Well, I forgot that everything's reversed on Facebook. Then I looked up on Facebook how to fix that, and guess what? For everybody else's phone, it works. Mine, it don't work. It works on just regular videos, but not for Facebook videos. So that's something I gotta fix. Anyway, I want to talk about something tonight that I relearned today. You know, there are many people out there that, and I've been one myself, wondering about the power of God. Or why don't we see the power of God more? I'm not talking about anybody belongs to something lukewarm that don't believe in the power of God. But you can still listen. We think the power of God is gone today, or we have many people that will profess and they'll proclaim that, like they have the power, or they do little tricks and gimmicks to make it look like they got the power of God. Anyway, I got to thinking, I saw something today that made me think, and I haven't thought of this before, but it come back to me. You know, we ask ourselves, well, what would it take? How close would we have to get to God? What kind of connection would we have to have with the Holy Spirit for that power to flow through us? Well, let me ask you a question. If someone murdered your spouse, your child, your grandchild, someone you love very dear, could you forgive them? Think about that. For a lack of better terms, that's how much God you got to have in you. Could you honestly forgive a person that did that? Yeah, we would love to be that preacher up there and hollering and yelling and knocking people over. I'm not trying to belittle that. But could we love somebody that did something like that? They say to err is human and forgive divine. Could you imagine forgiving, having the love of that capacity? If you had the love of that capacity, maybe the power of God would operate through you. Now, I've talked to people before in the ministry, and they told me they couldn't handle people. Then you better get out of the ministry or get right. If you can't handle people and they bother you, then are you in it to touch their soul? Do you have compassion on them, or is it about your status quo, about being somebody? You got to think on that long and hard. Let me ask you, for anybody in the ministry, would you do it if it had to come out of your own pocket? Question. And I know a workman is worthy of his hire, and I know all the other, but I'm just saying, would you work at it if, however much income you had, you just used your own money to do ministries, to do things? Just a thought. Or is it good so you can go places and vacations, and I don't want to nitpick, don't give me a bit, to have a good lifestyle? How much do you love? How much compassion do you have? I mean, think about Stephen. He's being stoned to death. And he said, forgive them, for they know not what to do. Jesus did the same thing. Now, so maybe everybody doesn't want to be that person that heals the sick and raises the dead and does all those things. Maybe you just want to, hey, I'll sit on the sidelines and watch the game and I'll do some stuff. Not everybody is going to be called to that level. But if you feel called to that level, it's really going to take some soul searching. It's really going to take some dedication. It's really going to take a commitment to God. I can't stress it enough. I've prayed to God about this already. I said, how can I love and forgive on that level? I don't want someone that I love to be killed to find out how. But I'd like to be able to be strong enough that something ever come up, I could. I struggle if somebody offends me. Somebody just upsets me and hurts my feelings. It's hard to forgive. I thought if that be the case, if we got to have compassion to that degree, I am so far away. And I imagine many out there are. This whole thing with ministering people is serving. It doesn't mean that we're up on a pedestal higher than someone else. Jesus lowered himself down and became a servant. And becoming a servant, you may have to tolerate some people's idiosyncrasies. You may have to tolerate people's imperfections because you have imperfections too. We all do. And we shouldn't say, well, my imperfection's not as bad as his imperfection. So I'm going to make this pretty short tonight, and it's just food for thought. If someone took the life of someone in your family, or your closest, dearest, loved friend, whatever, could you be close enough, entwined with God enough to forgive, a godly forgiveness? I believe that's where we need to be for the Spirit of God to operate us in power. Because you need that kind of love, that compassion for that to happen. Thank you, and I hope everybody has a good evening, what's left of it. And please take this to heart and really pray about it. It's no time to dilly-dally around anymore. You cannot make people, you cannot preach people to love God. Many ministers want to come in, boy, they want this revival. And I'm not downing that. They want to, boy, I want to make them people love God as much as I do. You ain't going to do it. You can inspire people. But love the people. Not for a good offering. Not to be invited back. Not to be someone of a name. Love people. Not just I love you, love people. Forgive. I'm working on that one. Could you imagine if we had that type of love, maybe we'd be winning more souls. If we had that compassion. But the only way we're going to get that compassion is to spend time with God and get involved in doing something on a servant level. If you don't want to be on a servant level, I think you're missing the point. I think you're missing it. But please, that's the way to allow the Spirit to operate in you, through you, is to surrender that carnality, surrender that flesh, and allow the compassion, the love of God to just exude from you. Again, please take this to heart and pray about this and think about it. What would you do? Good night.